Hello YouTube, this is Aidu from Random School Kids, and I'm going to be teaching you how to make a simple, fast, but satisfying animation. Might take about 10 minutes, and no skills needed whatsoever. So right now I am using Blender 2.9. So Blender is free and it is easy to use, and so let's get right into it. If you haven't downloaded it, I recommend you download it now. So let's get into the video. So we're going to select the cube just by clicking on it. We're going to size it by clicking S, and then we're going to click X to size it on the X axis, aka like the pink one. So there we go. You can also click here that says scale. You could also scale it like this or like this, whatever, it really doesn't matter as long as you scale it. Okay, so then we're going to add, by clicking Shift and then A mesh plane. That is going to be our flat surface. Right now it's in like the smack dab middle of our long cube. So let's move it down. You can click G or you can click this thing that says move. So no, we want to move it all the way at the bottom. That's pretty good. And let's click S to size it. Just S. That'll size it good. Just S. No axis sizing necessary. So now let's move the plane so that that long cube will be at the very end of it. So now we're going to make 125 tiny cubes. That might sound like a lot of work, but believe me, it is very easy. You can do it the easy way or the hard way. We're going to go and click Shift A, Mesh, Cube. Let's move the cube back here. That's pretty big, so let's size it down a little. So right now I will be using Eevee to render. It renders fairly fast, about 1 second per frame. And so let's go into materials. Let's click new. And so doesn't matter what color you do. You can go for blue, you can go for red, you can go for green, pink, purple, whatever. Right now I think I'll be using red. And so now if we go into the render view, you see that it is red, but it is very dark. That's because we deleted our lamp. Now, to make it bright, let's go into world. Do you see like a tiny earth over here, world properties? And then let's go to color. Then we're gonna move this up. So now we got a very, very, very bright layout. Okay, now that we're making colors, let's make the floor just flat out dark black. Just dark black. Let's make this bar. Let's make the bar blue. We're also going to be adding some color changing effects for extra satisfyingness, if that's a word. And so let's select this cube. I promised we would make hundreds of tiny cubes. So this is the easy way to do it. So first we have to add a rigid body. Go to physics properties, and we're going to go click rigid body. And we're going to keep it at active, but we're going to need it to be way heavier than 1 kilogram. So let's put it at 20 kilograms. And let's put it on mesh. We're going to add rigid bodies for these too. So what rigid body does, it like makes up human physics properties. If we like put a cube in the air, it wouldn't just float there, it would fall. Right now that isn't very human or earth-like because that just phased through the ground. We need to add a rigid body for this too, so it won't just phase through the ground. So we're going to add a rigid body, but we're not going to put it at active, we're going to put it at passive. We're going to click animated, and then we're going to click mesh. Same exact thing with this guy. We're going to click rigid body, and then passive, animated, and then mesh. So now it doesn't phase through and it looks very realistic-ish. Okay, so now time to multiply this cube into 125 different cubes. So we're going to add modifier. How to add a modifier is you go to this wrench-like tool, add modifier, and then you see array. We're going to need array. we're gonna add that 3 times. So we want the count to be at 5. So 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. Let's put it at 5 here. Let's put it at 5 here. So we need the factor x to be at 1.05 to see some separation between the cubes. And we're going to do the same thing here, except not on the x-axis, on the y-axis. Let's replace the factor x with 0 instead of 1. Let's do the factor y to 1.05 instead of 0. So now, as you can see, there's like a flooring, kind of. But we need it to be a big, giant cube filled with smaller cubes. So now we're going to move this factor x to 0 and the factor z to 1.05. There we go. So now we're going to go up right next to this camera. We're going to click apply. We're going to click the drop box, apply, click the drop box, apply. So now we have a giant block of cube. So you see how this says cube 001? Time to prove to you that there's hundreds of tiny cubes. Here we go. We're going to go into edit mode by clicking tab. We're going to click A to make sure every single cube is selected. We're going to click P because that is going to kind of like wrench them out and make them all one little cube by loose parts. There we go. Look at all these cubes. Look at all these cubes. 125 cubes as promised. And so we click object mode. So now when you click space to play the animation, boom, satisfying. It's not satisfying yet because we didn't render it or we didn't make any other action. If you want to keep it like this, sure, go ahead. Don't really care what you do. I'm not the person to judge what you do. So let's rotate it to make a satisfying splash when it hits the ground. Very satisfying. Let's size these two up a bit. We don't want them to be small. So there we go. That's a good little thing. Okay, so we're going to move up the frames to see them a little better. We're going to click space to play the animation. So as you see, the cubes hit the ground at frame 50 and then they explode. So now we're going to select this long cube. We're going to go up to here that has the yellow square. We're going to see location. We're going to click I over the location, and if it turns gold, that means you have keyframe the location. You see that? That's a keyframe. So now we're going to move it to 50. And then let's see where the chaos starts spreading. Yeah, around frame 70. Okay, so we're going to click move or G, and then we're going to click Y. We're going to move it all the way to the other end of the plane. And now we're going to go over this. We're going to click I again. So now there's movement. Watch the animation. You saw that? Okay, now we're going to go 20 plus 70, which is 90. I hope all of you know that. Okay, we're going to put on frame 90. We're going to move it all the way back to where it used to be. Then we're going to click I again over the Y or the X, whatever, the Z, whatever you want to do. So now, as you can see, pretty satisfying, right? So now we're going to click end where it says end. We're going to put the end on frame 90 because that's where we want the animation to end. We don't want 250 frames of nothing. So here we go so far. There we go. So we're going to up the frame rate because the frame rate Blender gives us isn't all too good. So we're going to click up here where you see like this image times 3. Never mind. We're going to click go up here where you see like a printer printing an image and it says frame rate. I personally like 30 frames per second because that's nice and clean. So then we're gonna put it up to 30, and now we're gonna fix up the camera. Right now, it just sees this. So if we were to render right now, this is all we're gonna see. We don't want to see that. So we're gonna select the camera. We're gonna move it way up. Now, all we see is black nothingness. That is still not what we're trying to look. So we're gonna rotate it on the x-axis. We're gonna rotate it down. We're gonna rotate it on the y-axis because it looks kind of tilted. Okay. That's kind of better. Let's move it up. Let's move it on the y-axis. Okay. Now it's a little too rotated, so let's fix that. There we go. That's a better rotation. So now all we see is this big giant cube. That's still okay. Let's move it up. Yeah, we have to go way down. Okay, so now we see the entire animation. Nice. So now if we go to render view, and then if we click this, this is overlay. We don't want overlay to show. So now this is pretty much what you're going to be seeing after you render the animation. So let me fix up the camera just a little bit more so it doesn't look weird. Let me view it. Yeah, that's good. Here, let me push it a little. There we go. That's terrific. That's a nice view. So now we're going to click render. Rendering in Eevee is I'll show you the rendered version later. And now, goodbye.